people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. Up-and-comer Ryan Rozicki, the cruiserweight division, posted this via his social media, and it reads, December 2nd at Center 200, I will be going up against unbeaten 22-0, 19 knockouts cruiserweight from Germany.
There was a story published a few weeks ago that Ryan would be heading to Kinshasa to take on Lunga Makabu for Lunga's WBC title.
And apparently that's not happening. That intel didn't check out. He's going to be fighting this guy instead. Guy that goes by the name Mohammed Beckdash. Unbeaten guy, 30 years old, southpaw.
I think if given the opportunity, Ryan Rozicki could see himself becoming a cruiserweight champion.
I think he could when you think about who's in possession of the alphabet titles at this time in the cruiserweight division. There are 4 champions. WBO cruiserweight champion Lawrence Okoli, IBF champion Jay Opataya, WBA champion Arsen Goulamarian, and WBC champion Lunga Makabu.
You could give Ryan decent odds against at least 2 of the 4 reigning champions at this weight. Those 2 being Arsen Goulamarian, the sparsely active Arsen Goulamarian, and Lunga Makabu, who's a strong puncher.
He's strong, albeit limited, but he is a strong puncher.
You could give Ryan Rozicki decent enough odds against those 2 guys.
Ryan Rozicki, who saw action 2 times last year, he's already seen action 2 times this year. He's coming off a rather contentious split decision win over Yamil Peralta.
He had a close call with that guy.
Some might tell you, Daddy got a gift decision against that guy. That's what some people might tell you.
That's his second fight since having dropped a competitive decision up there at Bridgerweight against Oscar Rivas for what was the WBC's Bridgerweight title.
And that was a very entertaining fight. Better than advertised. Ryan Rozicki left a lasting impression. Durable guy, strong puncher, great engine.
He's going to be fighting Mohammed Beckdash in early December.
Mohammed, much like Ryan, he saw action 2 times last year, and he's already seen action 2 times this year.
This will be his 3rd fight in the year of 2022, same as Ryan.
Gonna have to get a look at this guy to see what it is exactly Ryan Rozicki is going to be dealing with opposite the ring, Mohammed.
Mohammed, who for the most part has been fighting pedestrian-level competition, pedestrian-level opponents. He may be 22-0.
But you could get a ham sandwich to 22-0 depending on how it's matched.
Be opposite the ring, Nova Scotian slugger, Ryan Rozicki, a mid-range to inside guy, spiteful puncher, granite chin.
You wonder what happens after this, should Ryan Rozicki emerge the victor. What happens beyond this upcoming Mohammed Beckdash fight?
Because he's not ranked by the IBF, the WBA, or the WBO. By way of the WBC,
he ranks in at number 13. He's got a long way to go before he's in line to fight for the green belt, to fight for that alphabet title.
Currently, Russia's own Alexei Popin ranks in at number 1 by way of the WBC.
Alexei, he's supposed to be seeing action later on this month on the 29th.
Ryan would have to go through him to get in line to fight for the green belt. He'd have to go through him to get in line for the WBC title, become the mandatory challenger for it.
Maybe that's something he can look into doing next year. This year, he's set to be taking on Mohammed Beckdash. A little bit surprised, Ryan Rozicki being a Canadian-based fighter, that one of the major promotional outfits in Canada didn't decide to pick him up. Eye of the Tiger Management or Yvonne Michelle, any one of them, because this guy's made for TV.
He's going to be returning to action in December, early December, and we'll talk more about the fight as the fight date approaches.
In other cruiserweight news, Billiam-Smith, CBS, who you normally see on Matchroom shows, he's to sign a one-fight deal with Boxer and Sky Sports. It seems he's working with Sky and Boxer on a fight-by-fight basis. He's not on Matchroom anymore. Per sources, Commonwealth Cruiserweight champion Bournemouth's own
CBS.
Chris Billiam-Smith will return to the ring in December at a 3,500 capacity Bournemouth International Centre, Bournemouth, England. No Smoke Boxing understands that the show could take place December 10th or the 17th, with the most likely option being December 10th.
It better be. If Anthony Joshua is to return on the 17th in the UK, they don't want to have to compete with that.
Lest we forget, Anthony Joshua's ring return later on this year, it's supposed to be on the 17th. And Joshua versus Valine, Joshua versus Hrgovic, Joshua versus Zhang. Any one of those fights is a better fight, will get more attention than anything that Chris Billiam-Smith is doing. Now, God forbid that the rumors check out and Anthony ends up fighting Chris Areola, of all people. There's a rumor going around that Chris Areola has been made an offer. I'm sorry, but even for a guy on the rebound,
That's no good. That's a terrible fight. Terrible fight.
what I said when Deontay Wilder fought him all those years ago, because all those years ago, Chris Areola was over the hill. All those years ago. He was over the hill when Wilder fought him. He was over the hill when...
He was over the hill when Adam Kovnowski fought him. He was over the hill when Andy Ruiz fought him.
You can't turn back the hands of time. He's over the hill here today, and even though Anthony's coming off of 2 consecutive back-to-back losses, Chris Areola as a rebound fight, that simply won't do. You can't justify a fight like that, so let's hope that those rumors don't check out. In any event, Anthony's supposed to be returning on the 17th,
And Chris Billiam-Smith is supposed to headline a Boxer Sky Sports card at the venue for the second time.
the Bournemouth Center, for the second time this year due to a one-fight deal with Ben Shalom's boxer. The Bournemouth cruiserweight is highly ranked in all the governing bodies: WBO number 2, IBF number 3, WBA number 5, and WBC number 7, and is on the verge of a world title shot. He is expected to get an opportunity at Australia's Ring Magazine champion Jay Opataya in 2023. But with Opataya's broken jaw, Billiam-Smith will have a fight in between.
And he needs it. There's no sense in sitting on the shelf collecting dust while you wait.
The people at Sky Sports and Boxer seem to want to corner the market on cruiserweight action. That's what it seems they're doing. You know, they got Chris Billiam-Smith over there. Some kind of offer they made Lawrence Okolie, who has since left 258 management and is rumored to be crossing over from Matchroom over to their side of things.
There's that to consider. Chris Billiam-Smith is over there. Richard Riakporhe is over there. Unbeaten Richard Riakporhe, who actually beat Chris Billiam-Smith some years ago.
Do you think they'd do a rematch between them?
I think, given where Chris Billiam-Smith is ranked by way of the IBF, it would take a lot of money. It would take some convincing for him to jeopardize his potential title shot against a hard puncher like Richard Riakporhe.
Granted that Richard won the first fight, and it's Chris Billiam-Smith that would be in the market for revenge, not Richard. It's Chris that actually has something to lose. It's Chris who's on the verge of challenging for an alphabet title. At a very opportune time, I might add, because when Jay Opataya returns, he will have been out for some time, and he will be coming off of surgery. His jaw was broken in 2 places, so if you're Chris Billiam-Smith, what you want is a stay busy fight.
You don't want to take too many chances.
That being said, in all likelihood, he may end up returning on the 10th in a keep busy fight, because you can't hope to compete with Anthony Joshua on the 17th with a keep busy fight. In all likelihood, they'll both be fighting in keep busy fights, but Anthony Joshua's fight will end up monopolizing most of the attention.
You don't want to go head to head with that guy.
And as stated, Ben Shalom seems to be trying to corner the market on cruiserweight action, because if you'll notice, the other major promotional outfits on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean, they're not invested in the cruiserweight division. Not anymore. Eddie Hearn has no stake in that weight class. Not if Lawrence Okolie ends up crossing the street.
He's got Alen Babic, but I heard something about Babic potentially fighting Oscar Rivas.
And Oscar Rivas is a bridgerweight champion, not a cruiserweight champion. Uncle Bob ain't got no cruiserweights, neither does Al Heyman.
I don't know of any cruiserweights that Frank Warren is grooming.
So perhaps Ben is on the money, trying to corner the market on cruiserweights, because nobody else is really invested in that division, so there won't be very many politics.
When it comes to making fights,
He can make several of them without the politics of boxing. And just in keeping with the theme of all things cruiserweight, former undisputed cruiserweight champion Alexander Usyk is considering another run at cruiserweight to collect a few more of the world belts.
The cruiserweight division is an open book, after all.
In Alexander Usyk's absence, no one's really established themselves as the most dominant force in the division. In a recent interview, Usyk said he may even stay at cruiserweight long enough to pick up a few more world titles he once held in his possession. Usyk also revealed that being a heavyweight has taken a significant toll on him, particularly the obligation to eat all the time in order to maintain a physique that would allow him to compete in that weight class. I was thinking about returning to cruiserweight and getting a few more of the world title belts.
He's not a natural heavyweight, you know. In today's era of lumbering lummoxes, Usyk is a small fry.
You know, being a heavyweight means you have to be really heavy. You must eat a lot. It's not hard to fight with these giants, but it's really hard to eat all the time. Not only eating, but training as a heavyweight requires Usyk to expend more energy than he did as a cruiserweight. And now I work much more than I did as a cruiserweight, particularly in the training camps, Usyk continued. I had to swim 10 kilometers and train hard. At this moment, I just want to stop and take a rest.
You get the sense that Usyk is planning around a situation to where maybe the Fury fight don't happen if, for whatever reason, that fight doesn't materialize next year.
It doesn't sound like Usyk plans on staying in the heavyweight division.
It sounds a lot like the only fight of any value to Usyk at heavyweight is the Fury fight. And if for some reason he can't get that fight and that fight don't happen,
he's not going to stay there.
would he be subject to criticism if he left, if he vacated the heavyweight titles to go back down to cruiserweight?
To be completely honest with you, I think he would. At a time where you have fighters like Philippe Prkovic and Daniel Dubois, Joe Joyce, who would like to avenge his semi-pro loss to Usyk several years ago. He'd like to avenge that loss here now in the pros. At a time when these are the guys in the queue, Alexander Usyk could fast become subject to a lot of criticism if he were to leave the heavyweight division, leaving that unfinished business behind.
A half of a year of training is hard work.
I didn't see my family for such a long time. I didn't see my wife, children, or anyone. The belts in the cruiserweight division are currently scattered. South Africa's Lunga Makabu holds the WBC. France's own Arsène Goulamarian holds the WBA. Australia's own J.O. Pataya, he's got the IBF. And England's Lawrence Okoli has the WBO.
Think Usyk can beat these guys?
Every single one. Every single one of them. In the absence of the cruiserweight division's undisputed champion, Alexander Usyk, a new crop of champions has sprouted. And I have to say, I'd give Usyk very good odds to beat every single one of these guys. Every single one.
So I have to say, Usyk returning to the cruiserweight division is not something that I expected, something that I anticipated.
It's not. Ever since he left the division after stopping former cruiserweight champion Tony Bellew, I figured he was done there, and you just get the sense that Usyk and his team are planning around.
If things don't work out with Tyson Fury, if he makes things difficult, because Tyson Fury has a habit of doing that in what is otherwise a simple situation.
Remember, he conflated things with Deontay Wilder ahead of their second fight by jumping into bed with Top Rank. Ahead of their third fight, he made things so difficult that Deontay Wilder had to get an arbitrator to get the guy back in the ring. You think about the Dillian Whyte fight that ended up going to a purse bid because
Frank was lowballing Dillian Whyte. And you think about this fight, the potential undisputed heavyweight title fight between Usyk and Fury.
Most, if not all, of Tyson Fury's focus these days has been centered around a Joshua fight that was never realistic before this year is out, was never realistic to begin with, and he seems to have more energy for that than Alexander Usyk. Now, I understand that it's because Usyk said he's taking the rest of the year off, but you just don't get the sense that Tyson Fury cares about that Usyk fight.
Yeah, he's supposed to be fighting Derek Chisora for a third time, and this would presumably be a tune-up fight en route to the Usyk fight.
Because if not for that, why the hell would he be fighting Derek Chisora again? You get the sense that Tyson Fury, he wants a fight that can put a little bit of money in his pocket, a few quid, but not a fight that's going to be physically taxing, a fight that might leave him tenderized ahead of what could be an undisputed title fight next year.
And let's hope that both teams and both boys stick to the plan, because that's really the only fight to make in today's heavyweight division.
But you just get the sense, based on these comments from Alexander Usyk, that if things don't work out between him and Tyson Fury, he'll move back down. and he'll move back down because he's not a natural heavyweight, but he is a reigning heavyweight champion with several mandatory challengers in the queue, none of which present the same financial value that an Anthony Joshua presents or a Tyson Fury. You go in there with a Joe Joyce or a Daniel Dubois or a Philippe Hrgovic.
I talked about this in my previous video when Alexander Usyk expressed an interest in facing former WBC champion Deontay Wilder. That Usyk,
Titillating fight that might be, Usyk versus Wilder, he may not have the autonomy, the liberty to simply move into a fight like that because he's got 3 alphabet titles and mandatory challengers lined up for every single one of them.
if the Fury fight don't happen, he might have to fight one of them, particularly Joe Joyce, who's in line by way of the WBO.
How much longer before that becomes an issue, before that becomes a problem? Tyson Fury's supposed to return to action in early December, and they've got to get on the negotiations for a Usyk fight as soon as possible.
If I'm being honest, they should be working on that right now so that Fury can move into that fight seamlessly, without any issues, without any problems.
I don't know if that's what's going on behind the scenes, but ideally that would be what's going on so that by the time next year gets here, there are no issues, no road bumps, no snags, no problems.
You delay this thing, you jeopardize the undisputed heavyweight title fight because Usyk's a unified champion. He's got 3 belts. That's 3 mandatories.
How long before one gets ordered? And hearing these comments from Usyk, you get the sense that he has that in mind. It's difficult for him to fight as a heavyweight, and in the event that he can't get Fury in the ring or the undisputed title fight is hampered for any reason at all, he'll move back down to cruiserweight and he'll fight those guys for their belts.
Problem with that is it's not the same money down there at cruiserweight that he's been making as a heavyweight. It really isn't.
You don't make fighting J.O. Pataya, Lawrence Okoli, Arsene Goulamarian, or Lunga Makabu what you've been making fighting the likes of Derek Chisora and Anthony Joshua. You won't make with those guys down there what you've been making as a heavyweight.
Top Rank ain't got no stake in the cruiserweight division.
Matchroom might not either. The Lawrence Okoli situation, we don't know where we are with that.
Wasn't he supposed to be going to Sky Sports?
In a situation where Sky is invested in unbeaten Richard Riakporhe, they've got Chris Billiam-Smith for at least one fight.
And Lawrence Okoli might be going over there. He might end up at Sky Sports and Boxer.
And if he does, then Sky Sports and Boxer would have more of a stake in today's cruiserweight division than either Frank Warren, Eddie Hearn, or Bob Arum. So, maybe Usyk might want to jump into bed with them, jump into bed with Sky Sports and Boxer in a situation like that. But remember, that's a hypothetical situation, and a lot of things have to happen, rather, a lot of things have to not happen before he gets to that point, to where he's really decided to move back down to cruiserweight. I don't know what's going to happen. It's an immaterial situation, and we need answers. Ideally, what we get
is Usyk versus Fury for the undisputed heavyweight championship. But
fights have fallen apart before. This might be another, unfortunately.